we're back in the garage. We're gonna take this brake line, make it look somewhat like this, just less rust. I've already flared the end of it so the fitting can go on. You always want to remember to put the fitting on before you bend it, otherwise you make a big mess. So I'm going to start by matching it up to this old line. I've already cut the flare off the other end and just dropped my fitting on the floor. So the way I've been bending these lines, give myself a little space for the flare that I cut off, and then just put a little mark right at the start of the bend. So I'll put this in the bender and I'll try to find that little mark I made. Line it up just a little before the zero, right at the edge of the bender. And this looks about like a 45-degree angle right here. So I'm going to bend this to 45. Take this, match it up, see if it looks about the same. It's pretty close to the angle. We can hand adjust it once we get it on the vehicle. So I'll take this, get that bend lined up pretty close. The second bend will line up pretty close. Just put a little mark right where this bend starts to go over. So I'll take that out, put it in the pipe bender. What I'll do is I'll double check the angles that I'm trying to bend, make sure everything's going the way I want it to. And this looks about like another 45-degree bend. Got my mark set, put it in here and turn it to the 45-degree mark. Double check it with the original. And that looks pretty close. I'm gonna go ahead and adjust this bend just a little bit, make myself a little more happy with it. So I'll just set it back up. Just go a little bit past it. Again, double check with that. Put a mark on that bend. It's all still pretty lined up. While I've got it like this, I'll just check the angle right here. That looks pretty close to what I'm going for. So I'll go ahead and take it out of the bender. So my next bend will be going that way. So get them lined up, put a little mark right on the back side of that bend. in bending these brake lines, just take your time. So I've already bent all the other lines and I made all the mistakes with those. Bending too far or bending the wrong way. So the other portion of this line just has some small bends in it. Probably just do those right now, just in my hand, because they're not too severe. Double check that. And when I took this brake line, the fitting twisted off the end there. So I'll just need to add a little bit for the fitting that was on there, plus the flare. So I'll cut it off right there. Should give me enough for the flare, plus just a tiny bit to play with. Cut off the end of this and prep it for flaring. I got this cheap cutoff tool. You don't want to put a lot of pressure on it. Every once in a while, just give it a little turn. Send it around the pipe a couple of times. Give it a little turn. You want to be patient because you don't want to crush the pipe. I'll take this tool, chamfer the end, the outside, the inside. You don't want to take off a lot of material, you're just trying to deburr it. You don't want any raised burrs, otherwise you get a bad flare out of it. Once I'm satisfied it's all clean, I'll get it cleaned up, put a dab of grease on it, and flare the end. I've got my Eastwood flaring tool here. I bought this to make my life a lot easier. So what we do with this is we put this down in the die, have it sticking out just a little past the edge. Make sure you're using the flaring side of the die. Don't forget to put your flare on. I've already bent all the other brake lines and there was at least 2 of them I forgot to put the flare on. Had to cut or put the fitting on and I had to cut the flare off and redo it. Once we've got that in the dies, we'll just lock down the clamp, sticking a little past the edge, and we're just going to lightly snug it for now. Put on operation 0. It's a flat die that just pushes everything back where it needs to go. And then we'll tighten this down real good. Make sure it's not going to move in the flaring process. So for this, we got a 1/4 inch line. We'll go to operation 1, 1/4 inch. We get a nice little bubble flare. We go to operation 2, 1/4 inch. And finish out the flare. Take it out of the die. we've got a perfectly formed double flare. Just run the fitting back on it. Rebend this corner because I had to straighten it out to get the fitting down far enough, and we have a completed brake line. I've got all of the brake lines bent up for the van. We've got the one I just did. This goes to the rear. This is also for the rear. This one is for the front. Goes from the master cylinder to the front splitter, the front to back splitter. And then we've got our 3 front lines, and then the one main long one that goes from the front of the vehicle all the way to the back. All we have to do is finish up the rear brakes, and then we'll go ahead and install these and get the master cylinder bled and get that on the van. No, I don't want to just